I wanted to talk about the UK's apparent infatuation with climate extremism, I suppose, is the word for it. I've titled it Climate Mania, but we've just been doing loads of really crazy things, despite the fact that as far as green technology and all of that sort of thing and being carbon neutral, we're probably one of the furthest along in the Western world. I know we've got loads of businesses in particular that are based here that are developing like renewable energy and things like that. But never mind that. One stupid thing that I've seen is that the National Trust has now offered staff Mediterranean working hours with the option of siestas to cope with the harsh heatwave conditions of Surrey in England, southern England.
You've never had heat waves before, have we?
It's just so absurd. Mediterranean working... What?
I mean, I do kind of love it. It's clearly just the guys in charge are getting a bit old and they'd like a siesta.
I mean, I do appreciate that they are just offering them the choice. They don't have to do it.
Yeah, but everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. Do you want a nap at work? Well, but this is just obviously ridiculous. Like anyone who lives in the UK, to refer to any aspect of our climate as Mediterranean is patently absurd.
Well, I mean, to give them their fair, we do have like that 1 week a year where it gets kind of hot and then it rains and then it's back to normal.
Yeah, we have 1 week a year where the sun comes out.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just clouds all the time. I mean, it's like Tacitus's description of Britain, which I mentioned in An Epochs with Beau, where he just says, yeah, it's a gloomy and grim island, basically, where it just rains all the time. And it's not changed. 2,000 years later, the climate is more or less the same.
As the Romans described it.
Yes, it is grim. It is definitely not Mediterranean. I wish it was. But alas, it is grim and miserable, so this is a little bit needless. And the fact that we haven't even had a proper summer either.
A little bit.
Yeah, we've not even had a proper summer. It's rained a lot. We've had a couple of days of heat, maybe a week or so,
yeah.
And that's it. And it's almost the end of August. So we've had that 1 week of sunshine and we're back to oppressive darkness once more. But supposedly siestas may be introduced into 500 National Trust heritage sites because, of course, the National Trust manages these old properties.
Sorry, I'm just seeing the chat doing like South Park impressions. Being like, oh, I'm so sleepy. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, they manage lots of old heritage sites, lots of stately homes, lots of lovely gardens and stuff. I've been to lots of National Trust places. They're otherwise doing good things and preserving our history.
Yeah, when they're not whining about there being too many white people at these
places.
Well,
the politicisation stuff is bad, obviously, but the main aim, their reason for existing is good, I think. And so, for example, Ham House in Richmond will be one of the first to try out these supposed changes, and apparently it was forced to close after there was a heat wave in 2019 where the temperature reached 104 Fahrenheit for Americans or 40 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world, which isn't really that hot. Have you ever been to Spain? It's kind of that temperature all the time.
You know, it's pretty hot, 40 degrees.
Yeah, well, that's probably one day of the year.
Yeah, and that's really the point, is that it's not unprecedented or even a long streak.
Mm-hmm. And it's not like you can't prepare. If it's going to be hot, just wear a hat, put on some sun cream.
I bought a fan.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really do that if you're a gardener in the National Trust, carry around a fan with you. But if you're out in the elements, there are things you can do to deal with the heat. I mean, if you're like a Spanish roofer or something where it's like 45 degrees and you're on a scalding hot roof, you don't see them complaining, just like, you know what?
Well, they take the siestas.
That's true. But they're still working in very hot conditions that are definitely not British. To compare the two is just absurd. So this was just something I thought was worth mentioning, but the main thing I wanted to look at was the Extinction Rebellion protests. So they put out on Twitter here these 2 weeks of protests that are centred in London. They're supposedly they started at 5:30 on Sunday, and they were already climbing on structures and causing mayhem, letting off like smoke. Climbing on old buildings, which they probably shouldn't be on. And if we could move on to the next tweet, they're saying, this is a climate and ecological emergency till the government #act now and empower a citizen assembly. We will continue to hold our crisis talks in central London. I don't know what citizen assembly they mean, like a parliament maybe?
Yep. We've got one of them.
Yeah, I mean, they want to subvert the democratic process, basically, is what they're admitting here, isn't it?
Yeah, and the main tactic is, of course, as you can see there, they shut down central London. They essentially just sit round and block all the traffic for ages. And if the anti-lockdown protesters did this, they'd be battered with clubs.
Of course, yeah. But because, of course, Extinction Rebellion, oh no, the media will kind of have a go at the government and the police if they do it. And there they are, for some reason, outside of Harry Potter World or whatever it is in London.
This is another great advertisement for just not living in London. I mean, another one of the problems with London is just the endless stupid protests that are nonsense that block everything down. And these guys being the worst, because they're not just protesting and they're like, right, many of us just heard, fair enough, we'll go home. It's no, we're going to sit around and make everyone's lives miserable until you listen to us. We're like, right.
I really doubt they're going to convince many people who they're probably holding up for work and stuff like that and getting home from work and, I don't know, doing things other than standing around.
But I think it is another argument for going to the countryside rather than living there.
Yeah. So if we can move on to the next one, got a tweet from David here, who always watches our stuff. If you could scroll down to the image, you can see them loading stuff out of a 4x4 in the middle of London.
So an electric 4x4?
No.
Oh.
And of course, anyone who knows London at all, it's completely unnecessary to have a vehicle like that. And it's
well, I mean, they've got a lot of
expensive
stuff in there, so...
Yeah, well, I mean, you could just get a van, couldn't you?
Yeah, but then again, that would be diesel, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but it's just a little bit more hypocrisy. And although I will say that the criticisms of environmentalists, just like, yeah, well, they've got smartphones, they live in a house and stuff like that, I'm kind of a bit skeptical of that criticism, because if they were like a hermit in the middle of the countryside, they're going to be even more easy to dismiss. So
I don't agree with that though, because there's different kinds of environmentalism. Obviously, there's the ones who are like, yeah, we should preserve our countryside and all the rest of it. And there's the ones who are concerned about change and whatnot. And then there are the weirdos. The Extinction Rebellion largely come under the weirdo section. And the best example of this was probably with Greenpeace. I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. Which is, I was in the car with John and we were listening to the radio, and a lady called up LBC because she said she had left Extinction Rebellion because she had co-founded it and worked with Greenpeace. And she was in some meeting with these people, and they were discussing, right, how do we keep to the target the UN has set for us for climate change? And then their solution was to shut down all electricity for, I think it was 2 days of the work week.
what?
Like, no electricity for 2 days of the work week. And then her response was, right, that's a terrible plan. That's not going to work.
Of course.
And the response from everyone at the board was, no, that's how we're going to have to do it. There's no other way. And she went, right, you guys are nuts. I'm out of here. I'm going to go work with some sensible people.
I imagine the people in hospital would have a thing or two to say about shutting down electricity.
Yeah,
like,
so when
life
they
support.
do drive around in diesel cars, I think they are deserving of criticism, because their solutions are usually, no one should be able to do this, but we're going to do it now.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm convinced. So I've got a few videos here of what's actually going on. The first one of which is from GB News, talking to one of the Extinction Rebellion people. So if we just have a listen to that.
The general vibe is that everyone is carrying chairs and tired from that, and everyone's really excited for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be awesome, and we're looking forward to disrupting London in general.
Yeah, we're here to disrupt.
Yeah,
that's the tactic.
And she was so pleased about disrupting people's lives and inconveniencing them, and it just makes me really annoyed, actually, that they're just so inconsiderate to other people. They're using that activism to browbeat people.
If they want to shut down electricity for 2 days of the week for everyone in the country, I don't think they care at all about other people.
No.
But it's also, you can see just from the crowd, I mean, I hate to be rude, but you guys aren't going to affect anything, ever. Like, I'm sorry, but just none of these people are going to switch their votes from Labour or Green Party, are they? They're never going to be convinced to vote Conservative. Therefore, you are pointless in the political game. If you are not a voter who will change your mind of who you vote for, no political party will ever care about you, because what's the point? If we can't win you over.
Exactly. And this next video, I will give you a warning. There is lots of screeching. There are lots of adults behaving like children when the police run in and try and stop them from blocking the road. So if we could watch this, you might want to cover your ears.
For people listening, no one's being hurt on screen.
No.
They're just screaming.
The police are just gently moving people out of the road.
and everyone around them, like all the women, are just screaming.
They're just sitting on the floor screeching. Like, it's like when a toddler can't get a toy in a shop, or they can't get their way, and then they lie on the floor. Look at that guy just going limp over the bicycle as well.
Yeah, but you could see a couple of like the middle-aged women sat down there, just with their heads up, like toddlers.
What is wrong with them?
Yeah.
How can an adult?
I love the chat. It's literally the meme.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. Cops are like, could you please leave? And they just sit there and go, ree.
Oh dear. Right, there's another one. It gets more stupid. So the traffic that they're holding up, they're also not going to give them any opportunity to escape. So they're lying underneath the car tyres, apparently willing to get squashed by cars.
And that's the other side of the van.
But it's
So for people listening, it's a guy underneath
Just to get an idea.
it is, yeah.
with his arm underneath the tyre in a metal rod. Just the one where he concreted it.
I don't know. But yeah, they're just lying in front of cars. I mean, I don't know why you would do this. I don't know what this is achieving for the climate. I suppose they're preventing that one van from driving off for a little bit. This is really solving the crisis.
Climate is solved. We stopped that one van.
And then there's this one final one which you won't have to listen to. For,
No, we don't have
the
it.
Twitter.
If we can get the Twitter link up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's the one where
I'm pretty
had
sure that
music
is the one
playing.
where he concreted his arm
Yeah.
inside that rod.
Ugh. Why would you do that to yourself?
So then the fire service have to come out and cut it out.
Ugh.
He's a prick.
So that is, yeah, he's just being a nuisance to the emergency services.
Yeah.
And as you can see here, this is probably a large part of why many people turn up, just for the party atmosphere that always seems to emerge. And we're not playing the audio because we don't want to get copyright strike on YouTube. But they're basically
They're
just
just
dancing
dancing
around.
Yeah. This has been at every single one, which is, there is an aspect of protest that is fun sometimes, and Extinction Rebellion seems to be one that is highly centered around fun.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really particularly serious activism, is it? They're not winning hearts and minds by jumping around to music.
No. It's also one of these protests where everything's very vague. Mm-hmm. The climate, what do we want? Better climate. How do we get it? Doing things. Yeah, it's just like, okay then.
So far, 118 people have been arrested from Sunday until yesterday. Obviously, we don't have the figures for today because today is not over yet. But supposedly, they went outside the Brazilian embassy in London yesterday. They're kind of moving around parts of London, supposedly, and they were claiming that they were protesting against the genocidal attacks being waged against Brazil's indigenous people. That doesn't sound very climate related. And the most charitable understanding I could think of is that obviously in Brazil they're deforesting a lot of the Amazon. Which
I was half expecting them to say they're doing genocide against the trees, but...
I mean, it's getting to that point, isn't it, almost? Trees are living things, you can't kill them, man.
It's a valid argument. If you're an environmentalist, why not?
Well, I don't think trees are quite as sentient as a human being, although judging from some of the crowd, I might call into question that. But yeah, I'm assuming they must mean that they're destroying the Amazon rainforest. It wasn't entirely clear from what they've said because they're not really too concerned about detailed political commentary. They're more concerned about the performance, but I'll get onto that in a second. So on Tuesday, they also blocked the entrance to Selfridges in Oxford Street in protest against clothes production, where they claim it's damaging the environment.
What isn't?
I know, yeah. Everything is damaging the environment, pretty much. There's no product that doesn't come from the environment. I mean, people are damaging the environment by existing. What are you going to do about that?
Protest the hospitals. No more births until we get our way. Why not? Yeah, go for it.
They were also protesting McDonald's by gluing themselves to the store. Perfectly sane people, apparently.
I like the guy with the concrete and the rods. I have more respect for than the glue people, because the glue people just kind of look autistic. I must admit, like the kind of people who lick a lamppost when it's ice, right? And they get stuck. That's what it kind of looks to me, where it's like, haha, I've glued myself to the glass. And like, whose problem is that?
I suppose the rationale is the rationale is they can't be removed. I imagine, but it's still silly.
If I was McDonald's, I'd just be like We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm pretty sure they were just removing a few of them as well. Like the ones that were just in there, they're just like, yeah, we're going to make some room for some customers and then we're just going to ignore you. They just stood outside just like, why are we doing this? Like, the poor police just fed up, probably. Just like, why are we wasting our time with these lunatics?
We could be arresting people for tweets. Sorry.
It's not like there's not any knife crime epidemics in London.
They wouldn't deal with that anyway. So.
Oh, God forbid.
Sorry, I'm very black pilled on the Met Police. If you're a police officer in the Met and you do some good work, fair enough. But it's enough bad stories.
I mean, people like the armed response units where they're responding to terror attacks. Obviously, very important stuff. Right. So yeah, there's they provided a rationale for the so-called McSleepin.
Sorry, did she glue herself to the touchscreen?
I don't know. I think she's just gesturing towards it.
Oh.
Who knows? But there's a thread from one of the Extinction Rebellion people here. They say, there are now 3 rebels glued on our McSleepin as we occupy McDonald's Leicester Square for the slumber party of the year. We'll be here all night to send a message to McDonald's that it's time to stop sleeping on the job and to transition to a plant-based food system.
Sorry.
And they go on to cite loads of statistics about how plants...
I just want to mention how cringe the writing is. Stop sleeping on the job, because we're going to sleep in. I hate commentary like this from organizations. It's the cringiest thing.
I know. And then they go on to say...
And also the demand that all McDonald's food must be plant-based.
Why?
Yeah, again, the totalitarian nature. Yeah. Where it's like, you don't get the decision, we're just going to do it for you.
Yeah, they rationalise it by saying they're the largest and therefore we must pressurise them. They're the biggest, therefore we must target them.
I'm also seeing some of the insults in the chat, not going to read them, but...
So I just wanted to end on why are they actually using these ridiculous tactics, because there is some thinking behind it. I know it's hard to believe, and you can be forgiven for thinking they're just lunatics.
I think
and some of them probably are.
We should endorse the gluing tactic. I want more of them to glue themselves to lampposts and then just leave them.
Just glue them and then ignore them.
Because the only way they get released is people come down and cut them out or solve them or whatever it is to get rid of it. And I don't think they bring it with them. So I think if we did just convince them to glue themselves to things and then just went, right, cheerio, bye-bye, and then just left them.
That would be quite funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about why they're actually doing this. So in a way, I know this is going to be controversial at first, but I'll explain why. They're using similar tactics to Donald Trump in the 2016 election. So,
all right, make me a sell.
I'm going to sell it to you because although they probably wouldn't like that comparison, they're doing and saying things that are probably deliberately controversial, and they know they are, to get press coverage. And there's no such thing as bad press coverage, really, when you're trying to raise...
Disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah.
I know some of it does make them look like lunatics, and it is going to put some people off, but...
I mean, Al Qaeda have plenty of press coverage.
But the idea is that you get people talking about something, and then it makes people more and more aware of what they're doing, and although it's going to put a lot of people off, it's also going to help them recruit more, and that is their rationale. And...
sorry, it was also the rationale for ISIS putting up beheading videos, and didn't really help them in the long term. But
well, I mean, they still got recruits, didn't they?
Yeah, well, now they're gone because everyone declared war.
Thank God, yeah. But John says, "You think a single person changed their mind? I hope not. I'm not defending them here. Quite to the contrary. But what they're doing isn't as stupid as it seems. They're deliberately being ridiculous to get attention, basically." That's why they're screeching, that's why they're gluing themselves, because it looks silly and it will get attention, which, quite frankly, I shouldn't have given them. But never mind that. I'm sure our audience is smart
attention
enough.
For what, though? That's the thing on my mind, which is like, okay, I can understand like you want to make attention because you're a political candidate to get votes. You want people to know your name, so then they go and vote for you. You know, name recognition's a thing. What are you going to do with Extinction Rebellion? Like, what is the goal? Like, you can have all the attention in the world. Everyone now knows the name of Extinction Rebellion. Now what?
They're going to whisper to you, the climate's changing.
Like, we know you as a bunch of weirdos who glue yourself and play dress up.
And then they don't really say a whole lot else, do they?
It's like, well, okay, that's the end of that then. Fine.
But anyway, the reason I covered this and why I shouldn't be criticised for giving them the coverage that they so deserve is because I know our audience are very smart people that are not going to fall for this.
Thank you for watching this clip from the podcast The Lotus Eaters. If you want more from us, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to get access to all the premium content that we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff there. So we've been doing this for quite some time. So we've got a huge library of content in various different categories. Now, some of my favourites have been the book clubs. I'm personally a big fan of these because it means we get to read good books and important books, extract the useful information out of them, such as with this Roger Scruton's Where We Are, which is a very interesting conservative take on the current culture wars and the state of Britain at the moment. So we go through and explore the meaningful concepts. And here's one that you and Bo did with Frank Dicotta's Mao's Great Famine. It's absolutely brilliant and harrowing to read. And so when all the comments on this happened to be, well, this was vile, we knew we'd done a good job with it. And we also have many other premium series like the Contemplations, where Hugo and Josh just go through and find something very interesting to talk about, such as this one talks about the idea of political representation and does it work, or is it a bit of a myth? And of course, we have the history content, which probably my personal favourite. In this particular one, myself and Bo talked about the achievements of Frankish warlord Charles Martel. Do you know what he's famous for, Callum?
Stopping the Muslims at Tours.
That's right. And we also do a bunch of premium videos and interviews and things like this. So in this one, we happen to have an interview with Michael Malice, who's a very, very charming guest, and I very much enjoyed this one. And we also do a bunch of premium podcasts about stuff that perhaps isn't appropriate for YouTube or various other platforms like that because of, some things outside of their editorial bounds.
So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, please go over to lotusears.com and subscribe for as low as £5 a month.